What is up, you guys? Welcome to the stream. As today, the New York Mets look to take the rubber game against the West Sacramento Athletics, whatever you want to call them. Yesterday, obviously, the Mets dropping their game with Oakland. West Sacramento 3-1 as the bats were silent once again. A frustrating game, and mainly because of what we've seen out of this offense so far this year. It's been feast or famine for them, and yesterday we got famine. So just 5 hits, just 1 run on the afternoon, as former Met draftee JT Ginn just carved them up. I mean, went 5 2/3 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts on the afternoon. So that was really tough to swallow. Obviously, seeing a former prospect of ours who the Mets, of course, if you remember, traded forward to get Chris Bassett. Never fun to see that happen and him get a little bit of revenge against us. So he did a great job. David Peterson actually had a pretty quality start there. He went 6 innings, gave up 2 runs. Obviously, he found trouble in the 4th. There were 4 base hits against him, and that was really his undoing. But other than that, he came back and pitched a strong 5th and a strong 6th inning. Unfortunately, like I said, the Mets lineup did not do their job. They get just 5 hits. They scratch across that 1 run. It was on the Brandon Nimmo bomb to right field. Overall, the top of the lineup left a lot to be desired. The top 3 of Lindor, Soto, and Pete Alonso combined to go 0 for 9. Pete Alonso taking an 0 for, I believe it's actually his first hitless game this season. It could just be his first game without reaching base, but he had 3 strikeouts in that one. Obviously, we're going to give Pete a lot of leeway considering the season that he has had so far this year. But now today, the Mets need to look to take the rubber game against the A's, or they could be staring down the barrel of losing 2 out of 3 to a team that, I think a lot of people don't realize are better than what they were thinking when the season began. They came out of the gate with a 5-8 record. They had lost 7 out of their last 10 coming into this series with the Mets, but they got a pretty solid lineup. I mean, they got some guys that can hit. Their pitching has been the problem, obviously. That 5.12 ERA was the 4th worst in Major League Baseball entering this series, and specifically at that Sutter Health Park out there in West Sacramento, where there's been a lot of homers. There really have not been too many in this series so far. I believe just 1 for the A's and then 3 for the Mets with Pete Alonso, Nimmo, and maybe 1 more somewhere in there anyway. But the Mets it wouldn't be the end of the world if the Mets do end up dropping this series with the A's, but it might be a missed opportunity. Again, it's only April, so let's see what happens. Let's get into today's pitching matchup. We all know the big storyline, Luis Severino facing off against his former team. Obviously, Luis Severino was solid for the Mets last year in a 1-year prove-it contract, and I think there's a soft spot in all the hearts of Mets fans out there for Sevy after what he did for the team last year. 31 starts, a 3.9 ERA. He's turned that into a 3-year, $67 million contract with the Athletics. If you didn't know, that actually makes him the highest paid Athletic of all time in the history of the franchise. This is a franchise that goes back to 3 different cities between Philadelphia, Kansas City, and now Oakland/Sacramento. They'll be in Las Vegas next. Very transient organization, obviously, but one that also goes back to the 1800s. And somehow Luis Severino is the highest paid Athletic in the team's history. So good for Sevy. We love that for him. 5 innings of shutout ball on opening day for Sevy. This will be his 4th start. First one, 5-inning shutout ball, like I said, but the last 2 have not gone so well for Luis Severino. 5 earned runs in each of his last 2 outings. And last week against the Padres, that was a tough one for him. And so his ERA for 2025 sits at 4.74. So let's take a look at the Mets lineup today. A very different looking Mets lineup today, actually. So we got Lindor, Soto, Alonso hitting in the top 3 spots. Nothing unordinary about that. Lindor is 5 for 16 with a homer and 3 RBIs in his career against Severino, so really good numbers there. Soto, 2 for 3, and Alonso is 2 for 5 with a walk. Nimmo hitting cleanup. That kind of makes sense against the right-hander back in that spot. He is 4 for 7 with 2 walks. And then we have Mark Vientos hitting 5th. He is DHing today, though, so getting him off his feet here. And I wonder if Carlos Mendoza is doing this as much as a mental kind of thing as it is just to give him a little bit of rest. Vientos obviously hasn't been going so great. It was nice to see him get a base hit yesterday to the opposite field. He had a nice line drive single into right field yesterday. So that was really nice to see. I want to see more of him going to right and right center field. You always hear Keith Hernandez talking about it on the broadcast for the Mets. So that was good to see. But I do wonder if him getting this chance today to DH is as much mental as it is physical from Carlos Mendoza. So we'll see. Rest of the lineup after that, Luis Torrens back in there after sitting yesterday. Obviously, we know that pinch hit, almost home run to right field off of Mason Miller. Oh my God, it gave me such blue balls. I thought that was out of there. I was so frustrated. I knew after it went foul, I was like, there's no way he's getting a hit now. I mean, like, you got one chance against Mason Miller, who is an absolute alien. That dude is insane. Toss him 103 with a nasty backdoor slider. Like, bro, that dude is legit. Anyway, Torrens in there, and then Brett Baty is getting started at third base today. And that makes sense because he's 2 for 2 with an RBI and a walk in his career against Luis Severino. Obviously, very small sample size. Tyrone Taylor in there, no career at-bats, but he's going to see some runway now after Jose Siri fouled that ball off of his, I believe they called it his shin yesterday. So Siri exited the game. Tyrone Taylor entered and took his at-bat with an 0-1 count. Tyrone Taylor probably going to see a lot of playing time for the next week, I would guess, at least, depending on how things go with Siri. I haven't seen any updates on him, if they've done any imaging, if they believe it's going to be an injured list stint or not. But I think this actually could be a blessing in disguise. Obviously, we don't want any of the Mets players getting hurt. We don't want to see Siri go down, who I do believe will be important to this team. But the Mets have gotten zero production out of center field between Siri and Taylor. And they've basically been switching off playing time, switching off starts, and maybe just one of those guys getting consecutive and consistent playing time is exactly what they need to start getting some production from one of them. So maybe that'll be the case. Maybe I'm just being naive and hopeful, but that's what I'm banking on right now. And then rounding out the lineup is Luis Angel Acuna getting the start at second base with Baty playing third. So very different lineup from what we've seen. The first time we've obviously seen anything like this lineup rolled out, and it'll be interesting to see how things go. Here's what I'm watching for with the Mets lineup. First of all, can they get it going? I said in my series preview for this series this weekend, I thought the Mets lineup would come out this weekend and have the most consistent 3 games that we've seen so far in 2025, that they would leave West Sacramento with Mets fans feeling as confident as they have about these bats. But obviously yesterday kind of throws a wrench in all of that. Friday they come out, they score 7 runs, but then on Saturday, just 5 hits, score 1 run, get shut down by a rookie pitcher. This is going to be a test for me. I want to see if they can bounce back today. If they get shut down today, am I going to say that there's major issues in the lineup? No. If they hit 4 home runs and score 8 runs today, am I going to say they're back? No. I think yesterday really kind of put things into perspective that it's still in the early going. This is only the 3rd week of the season. So it's going to take a little bit of time for them to all find their groove and be consistent all at the same time. So the other thing that is a big part of that, though, of course, is Juan Soto. Look, the Mets don't have an issue with Juan Soto yet, but things are starting to get a little concerning. It's an early season slump. I know Juan Soto is going to be Juan Soto at some point for the Mets. There's no doubt about that. But we were saying pretty much up until this weekend, hey, his numbers are still there. The guy still has a 900 OPS, and he's still getting on base, and, it's over 400. Okay. But those numbers are starting to dip now. Another hitless day yesterday. He did draw 2 walks, but as it stands right now, Juan Soto, 265 average, and his OPS is only 818. So those numbers are definitely starting to dip. There's got to come a point now where Soto starts to be super impactful, not just drawing walks. Don't get me wrong, love to see him getting on base, being patient. That's part of his game. I get it. But it'd be nice to start seeing a little more production out of him. So I also made in my pre-series predictions that I believe that Soto would hit multiple homers. So far, he has none. So we need at least 2 homers out of Juan Soto today. No pressure or anything, right? Should be easy. Meanwhile, Francisco Lindor, he was hitless yesterday. He's been up and down. We saw him have a really strong homestand at Citi Field this past week. Before that, he struggled out of the gate. Then he got things going down in Miami. So he's been up and down. I'd like to see Lindor start to get a little more consistent, keep things going for a while. And like I said, the series with Oakland against this pitching staff in this ballpark that's a launching pad that gives up tons of home runs. I would have loved to have seen the Mets just have that consistent 3-game streak here during this series and make things happen. That's obviously not the case, but it could go a long way toward helping me feel a little bit better about the lineup if they can come out and put some big runs up on the board today. By the way, guys, if you are in the stream, appreciate it. Thank you so much to Jonathan Chinook. I know I'm probably not saying your name right, man, but I always appreciate you being in the stream and checking things out for me. I will crash out if we lose today, he says. Dude, I mean, I'll be upset and it's going to really bug me. And then they might go and sweep Minnesota this week, or they might take 2 out of 3 from Minnesota. So it's like, it's so early in the season that I can't be super frustrated for a long time about it. But it would definitely be a little annoying to lose to the Athletics. But I do think they're actually a better team than a lot of people are giving them credit for. But if you guys are watching this, whether it's on Twitter Spaces or on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to have a post-game series recap after this. Not sure if I'm going to do it live or do a recorded version. We'll just see how that goes, but I'm hoping to do it pretty soon, immediately after today's ball game, so we'll check that out. But let's take a look now at well, I guess let's first talk about who's on the mound for the Mets, and that is Kodai Senga, making his 3rd start of the season. So Senga is on that, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this thing up here for us. Let's see. Oh, there we go. There's the lineup for the Athletics. Perfect. 3rd start of the season for Senga. First 2 of the season were against Miami. He went 5 innings in each of those, including on Monday where he gave up no runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, and he struck out 4. We know about the pitch count for Senga, that the Mets were going to limit him to about 75 pitches his first few times through the rotation. And they've stuck to that. In fact, he's gone exactly 77 pitches in each of those first 2 starts. So I'm really interested to see if Carlos Mendoza now is going to start letting him go a little bit deeper into games. I think it's totally outcome dependent, how he's looking, how he's pitching, how the game is going, and the order of the lineup, how many times he's faced them. If it's the 3rd time through the order, does he get that opportunity? But I think it's probably time where the Mets can start ramping him up closer to 85 or 90 pitches. But for the most part, so far, so good with Kodai Senga. And he'll be taking on this lineup, which again, I think is a lot more talented than they're getting credit for the Athletics. So leading off is Lawrence Butler. He started on Friday's game, came in as a defensive replacement on Saturday. Did not have an at-bat. He does not have any career at-bats against Senga. Brent Rooker, always dangerous. He is hitting second he is 1 for 3 in his career against Senga. Tyler Soderstrom, who was super hot coming into this series, he had hit into some bad luck on Friday night, but did get an RBI base hit to open the scoring yesterday against David Peterson. No career at-bats for him. He is hitting 3rd in the A's lineup. Met killer Shea Langoliers. Wow, what a surprise. He is 1 for 2 with a homer and 2 RBIs in his career against Kodai Senga. Miguel Andujar is hitting 4th, 5th? Yeah, 5th. He has no career at-bats. Something about Miguel Andujar, man, I'm telling you, this guy, he's just a pure hitter. I don't understand why the Yankees never really gave him a true opportunity out there in the Bronx. He might be a potential trade candidate around the trade deadline. And that would definitely be something that I would be interested in, especially with the way the Mets have been lacking offense at both 3rd base and 2nd base. And he's a guy you can kind of fit in there and even put at DH, depending on how things are going for the Mets. Mookie's even happy about it over here. Hitting 6th is Jacob Wilson. Obviously, he has that 15-game hitting streak to open the season. He's been hot. Seth Brown hitting 7th. Gio Urshela, and then Max Muncy. Those final 4 in the A's lineup. No career at-bats against Kodai Senga. So here's what I'm looking for. Like I said before, I'm hoping that Senga will go a little bit deeper into today's game. I want to see him get to closer to 85 pitches. I do think, like I said, it will be totally dependent on how the game is flowing, what the score is. If the Mets are up big, maybe they send him back out for a 6th inning. If the Mets are trailing big, maybe even then they'll just push him a little bit longer. But not only is it good for Senga to hopefully go a little bit deeper, but also to save this bullpen, which has just been taxed. We definitely saw some of that yesterday. Jose Butto did not have such a solid outing yesterday in the 7th and 8th inning. Hopefully Senga goes a little bit deeper into it. Overall, biggest things I'm looking for today, the Mets need to win this series, okay? They need to win 2 out of 3. I mean, I'm not going to lose my mind if they do. It's April. It happens. It is what it is. They're playing in a minor league facility. Things are very different. It's hard to get used to, but it would be very frustrating to lose 2 out of 3 to the Athletics. But we will see what happens. Guys, I appreciate you all coming and checking out the video here today. Like I said, we will have a post-game stream or video recapping the series. Hopefully a 2 out of 3 series. That would be 4 consecutive series victories for the New York Mets. They currently sit at 9-5. They can get their 10th win of the season as they jockey for position at first place atop the NL East with the Philadelphia Phillies. So guys, like I said, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave this video a like, leave a comment, something, anything. Tell your friends, tell your family about it as we continue to cover the Mets through 2025. We will chat with you later on this evening. Let's go Mets.